Did you know? Saudi Arabia, a country full of deserts, has successfully applied for the Asian Winter Games. What's even more incredible is that in order to host this event, Saudi Arabia actually plans to build an artificial snow mountain in the desert to meet the needs of the Winter Olympics. You may think this is just like a dream. When I first heard the news, I felt like I was dreaming. Until recently, the Saudi government announced a plan to invest $50 billion to build a super snow mountain in the desert Trojena. It will not only become the first ski resort in the Arabian Peninsula, but will also host the Asian Winter Games in 2029. Does it sound crazy? What's more interesting is that after Saudi Arabia announced this plan, some engineers said that except for China, almost no other country can afford such a huge project. After all, in the Middle East, all large-scale desert infrastructure construction almost relies on China's strength, and this project may not be an exception. Next, I will analyze for you how Saudi Arabia builds an iceberg in the desert, why only China can undertake such a large-scale project. If you like our video content, please click to subscribe to my YouTube channel so that you can receive all our latest video content. Now, let's get into today's topic. Saudi Arabia has always been famous for its rich oil resources, and it is not without reason to be called an oil tycoon country. Data shows that Saudi Arabia currently has 38.2 billion tons of proven crude oil reserves, accounting for 17.3% of the world's total reserves, and an annual output of about 600 million tons. At this rate of exploitation, it can theoretically continue to be exploited for 60 years. Due to the abundance of oil resources, Saudi Arabia's economic structure has long been highly dependent on oil revenue. However, this single economic model also makes the country's fiscal revenue extremely vulnerable to fluctuations in international oil prices. The plunge in international oil prices in 2014 dealt a heavy blow to the Saudi economy. In order to meet this challenge, the Saudi government launched the Vision 2030 plan to try to diversify the economy and reduce dependence on oil. As far as I know, the core goal of this plan is to create more diversified economic growth points by increasing investment in infrastructure construction and tourism projects. Of course, the Vision 2030 plan is not just about building a series of infrastructure. After all, no matter how well built the facilities are, they can hardly be called a success if they don't bring in actual revenue. Therefore, Saudi Arabia has put a lot of effort in this regard. They are actively striving to host various large-scale international events, whether it is esports, sports, or entertainment activities. The most shocking of all is the huge resources Saudi Arabia has invested in hosting the World Cup. They invested up to $500 billion in the construction of a super project called Neom, a future city that includes 11 modern large-scale stadiums. However, these efforts have finally paid off. FIFA recently announced that Saudi Arabia has successfully won the right to host the 2034 World Cup. This is also the first time in history that a single country has independently hosted a World Cup with 48 participating teams. Even more unexpected is that in addition to successfully applying for the right to host the 2034 World Cup, Saudi Arabia also won the right to host the 2029 Asian Winter Games. From a natural perspective, Saudi Arabia's climate has almost nothing to do with winter sports. Although Saudi Arabia has a coastline of 2,437 kilometers, except for the Western Plateau area, which has a Mediterranean climate, most areas have a typical subtropical desert climate. The summer here is hot and dry, with the highest temperature even exceeding 50 degrees Celsius. The average temperature in winter is between 12 degrees Celsius and 24 degrees Celsius, and the annual precipitation is less than 200 millimeters. Moreover, most of the land in Saudi Arabia is barren desert and wilderness, of which the desert area is as high as 860,000 square kilometers, accounting for 40% of the total land area, making Saudi Arabia the second largest desert country in the world. However, it is such a country that has successfully applied to host the 2029 Asian Winter Games and become the first country in West Asia to host the Asian Winter Games. So, how will Saudi Arabia respond? According to my investigation, in order to host this grand sports event, the Saudi government has announced that it will invest $50 billion to build a snow mountain in the desert. This snow mountain project is called Trojena and is part of the NEOM plan for the future city of Saudi Arabia's Vision 2030. The site is located in Tabuk province in northwestern Saudi Arabia, with a maximum altitude of 2,600 meters. Although Saudi Arabia is a desert country with a high temperature like an oven, this mountainous area is a different world. The altitude of 2,600 meters means that the temperature here is 10 degrees lower than the surrounding temperature all year round, and the temperature in winter can even drop below zero. Such natural conditions are tailor-made for ski resorts. According to the plan of Saudi engineers, 36 kilometers of ski slopes will be built in the entire snow mountain project, and the infrastructure cost alone is expected to be as high as $35 billion. In addition, considering the special environment of the desert area, natural snowfall is obviously unlikely to be relied on. Therefore, the power of modern technology is crucial. Saudi engineers plan to use artificial snowmaking technology to solve this problem. In order to ensure the feasibility of this project, Saudi Arabia has not been idle in recent years, but has actively tested various advanced snowmaking equipment on the market. According to the information obtained, Saudi scientists have developed a set of so-called world's most advanced snowmaking system, which uses dual system integration technology and combines traditional tower snowmaking machines and all-weather snowmaking equipment. The uniqueness of this system is that it is completely driven by renewable energy, can continuously make snow in places with water sources, and the used water can be recycled and reused, reducing resource waste. It is worth mentioning that in order to ensure sufficient water to supply the needs of snowmaking, Saudi Arabia also plans to dig a huge artificial lake in the mountains. According to the plan, it is mainly to build 3 lake-blocking dams, with a construction cost of up to $4.7 billion. The main dam will be 145 meters high and 475 meters long, with a water storage capacity of 2.7 million cubic meters. What's even more surprising is that Trojena is not just a place for skiing. It is also designed as a resort suitable for all seasons. The entire project will be divided into 6 areas, including the entrance area, exploration area, and valley area, and it will also be equipped with a maglev train to facilitate tourist travel. According to the plan, the Trojena Snow Mountain project will start bidding for construction in 2025 and is expected to be completed and put into use in 2028. Some people may ask, is it really worth it for Saudi Arabia to invest $50 billion to build a snow mountain? After all, this money is not a small amount. You know, Saudi Arabia has now successfully won the right to host the 2029 Asian Winter Games, which is the first time in the history of the Arabian Peninsula that such an event has been held. If there is no ski resort, then this sports event is probably a waste. Therefore, the Trojena project is not a whim, but an important step for Saudi Arabia in its economic transformation and upgrading. Moreover, the significance of this project is far more than just the Asian Winter Games. It is also part of Saudi Arabia's Vision 2030. Data shows that in recent years, Saudi Arabia has become one of the fastest-growing countries in the world in terms of tourists. In 2023, Saudi Arabia's tourism industry contributed 4% to the country's GDP, accounting for more than 7% of the non-oil industry. If the Trojena project is successfully completed, it will become a business card for Saudi Arabia to show its strength and future development direction to the world and better improve the growth of the tourism industry. The Asian Winter Games is the promotional film of the Trojena Snow Mountain project. With this opportunity, Saudi Arabia can not only attract tourists from all over the world. So, who will Saudi Arabia find to build this project? In fact, after Saudi Arabia announced the Trojena Project Snow Mountain plan, many international engineers also expressed their views on this grand idea. They believe that the altitude of 2,600 meters is indeed enough to keep the snow mountain low, thereby reducing the melting rate of snow. But the more challenging part is actually to build this ski resort in the desert. The soil in the desert is not as stable as muddy land, and the risk of such a large-scale project is higher. There are not many countries that can really carry out such a large-scale construction in the desert, and the only country that can build a snow mountain in the desert is probably China. As a globally recognized infrastructure maniac, China is also an important participant in Saudi Arabia's Vision 2030. It is impossible for Saudi Arabia to seek participation from other countries. Although Saudi Arabia has not yet announced any bidding plans for the construction of snow mountains, it is not surprising from the previous infrastructure bidding. As early as 2007, the first batch of Chinese engineering builders had entered Saudi Arabia and began to participate in the construction of the Jeddah Red Sea Gate Terminal. This project is of great significance to Saudi Arabia because Jeddah Port is the largest container port in Saudi Arabia and the second largest container port in West Asia. Since then, Saudi Arabia's infrastructure construction cooperation with China has gradually deepened. In 2013, Saudi Arabia once again invited China to participate in the construction project of Jizan Economic City. This economic city, located 80 kilometers away from the city of Jizan, has a planned area of 103 square kilometers and a coastline of 11 kilometers. The total investment is expected to be $25 billion. The project will include multiple functional areas such as oil refining, power plants, shipping, administrative areas, and living areas. The planned 400,000 barrels per day refinery and supporting power plant will become a future city integrating industrial production, energy supply, and modern facilities. In addition, China is also involved in a number of important Saudi projects. For example, the China-Saudi Arabia ELC consortium successfully won the bid for the King Salman Knowledge Zone project with a contract value of $2.08 billion. China is also involved in the NEOM Super Project in northwest Saudi Arabia, a future megacity project with a planned total investment of $500 billion. China is responsible for the construction of traffic tunnels with a contract value of up to $2.47 billion. China Harbor Engineering Company Limited is involved in the MUCAB project in Saudi Arabia and the Jeddah Stadium and surrounding sports village projects, which will be important venues for the 2034 Saudi Football World Cup. More significantly, China also undertook the construction of Saudi Arabia's Al Haramain high-speed rail project. No other country was willing to bid for this project, and China eventually won the bid, with the project value approaching $10 billion. It can be said that China occupies a dominant position in Saudi Arabia's infrastructure construction, with its share of contracted projects exceeding 70%. So, do you think Saudi Arabia will hand over this project to China? To not miss out on our future projects and news updates, please make sure you subscribe to our channel and turn on notifications. We will continue to provide you with more exciting and interesting content.